to be more people like you, more people who give so willingly to people like me. It's plain to see, with people like you, folk have a better break to take to people like me. Your caring smile makes working worthwhile. When pressure's on you, carry on through every trial. You're really great, I appreciate. You've got the goods for what it takes to make people like me.
Well, how many of you people out there get really excited about Chinese New Year? Now, I know a lot of you love going to Chinese restaurants. I know you love visiting the Chinese gardens. I know you love going to all the Chinese shops and buying all the beautiful stuff that comes from China. But how many of you are actually involved with Chinese New Year? How many have you been out there and watched the dragon and all the wonderful things that go on Chinese New Year? Now, I have a lady with me who gets very, very, very involved with Chinese New Year. Oh, maybe it's because she's Chinese. Let's have a look at her. Hello.
Hello, Joy.
How are you, my darling?
It's lovely to see you again, Joy.
Isn't it beautiful? It's been a long time, Gladys. This is Gladys Slim. And Gladys, how long? How did we meet?
Well, we met when you were my agent.
Oh, of course.
I had a lovely
Gladys's
time.
agent. You did have a lovely
Yes.
time, didn't you? You did all sorts of wonderful
yes,
things.
You had me up at 4 a.m.
Oh, yes. Yes.
and I met the most beautiful people.
Kung Hee Fat Choi. All you people out there who know what I'm talking about, I'm wishing you a happy Chinese New Year. And Gladys, Kung Hee Fat Choi.
Kung Hee Fa Choi to you, Joy.
Well, isn't that lovely?
Happy Chinese New Year and the Year of the Rat. And here's a little red packet to bring you luck.
A little
It has-
red packet to bring me luck.
Yes.
But what's in the little red packet?
Well, there's
Gladys?
little coins and there's a story about that. Would you like me to tell
Oh,
you the
yes,
story?
please.
Well, once upon a time, there was a beast, and he came every Chinese New Year. He wanted to eat the humans. This is the story they tell the children. So Chinese New Year Eve, they put red on the doors, they lit firecrackers all night, and also they lit a candle. And the next day, the beast didn't come.
The beast didn't
Yes,
come.
he didn't come.
Because
And
he
there were-
didn't like red.
He didn't like red.
He didn't like the fireworks.
firecrackers.
He didn't like the noise.
That's right.
Is that why you do it every New Year's
That's
Eve?
why
And
we
you
have
don't...
firecrackers. And Strathfield Council, it's Michael Jow, he's the multicultural officer.
Oh, wow.
He organised in Homebush the most beautiful firecrackers to go up and down the street.
All
But-
night?
No, just for a few hours. But it started first at the school, the public school,
Oh,
where
yes.
the mayor, Councillor Scott Farlow,
Yes.
he dotted the I's of the line to waken it up and to give it spirit. And then it came down the street, and it was just so wonderful to see. And to go down Homebush was beautiful, Homebush West. And the mayor and I, we followed the line. We went into all the shops, but the most fascinating shop, which brought back so many memories to me, was to go into the herbalist.
Chinese herbalists.
That's
Very
right.
famous, very clever people.
And I could, just smell just like my father's shop.
Oh, really? Was your
beautiful.
father a Chinese herbalist?
Well, he was, and my mother was
Yeah.
a nurse.
Where were you born?
I was born in Alexandria in the back of the shop.
You were just born down the street?
Yeah, there was no doctor there, so I was just born in the shop. But we always celebrated Chinese New Year. Everybody comes home on Chinese New Year's Eve,
Yes.
and then we have fish, which means yu in Chinese, which means plenty. You'll have plenty all year. So you have to have fish, you have to have little round balls of meat, which will be smooth, it'll be lovely, you'll have a lovely year, and there's all special other foods, and
Ooh,
there's
what's
lollies
this?
for you to give your family and friends and to give the crew. They'll love that.
Oh,
For good luck.
yes.
And there's
And what are these special Chinese
they are
lollies?
Chinese New Year lollies, and they'll love
Chinese
it.
New Year lollies.
Do you want
yummy.
it? Yes. So
And
you
I
can-
found the coin, isn't the coin?
Yes,
There
so-
are two of them.
Yes,
Ooh,
two. You always give two
lovely.
in Chinese.
Two. You
Yes.
give two of
Give
everything.
two, yes. So there's plenty here for the crew so they can have good luck, and to everybody out there. It's fascinating.
Very
Chinese
good
New Year.
luck, and kung hee fat joy to all of you. These are my Chinese gifts for New Year, and I know you're watching this and New Year's is over, but it'll be on again next year. And it was fun.
Everybody all around the world, the Chinese people celebrate Chinese New Year. It's just like we celebrate Christmas. It's just a wonderful festival
Yes.
to get together, to see family and friends, and it's delightful.
Very beautiful time.
Yes,
it
it
really is a
Joy.
beautiful time. But Gladys, tell us something about your experience as an actor.
Joy, I have to thank you so much for getting me into acting. It came, your friend, Albert. I was into him.
Oh, Albert. How is Albert?
I haven't seen him for a long
Oh,
time.
Albert's a Chinese man who got lots of work during that
That's
period of
right.
time. You worked a lot with him.
He rang me up and he said he wanted an old Chinese fat woman to be his wife.
Was that how?
And I thought, oh, no, that's not me. And I
You
said,
weren't old.
Oh, I was old. And I said, oh, I think I'm a bit old for you, Albert. You're nearly 90.
Yeah.
And I said, I still think I'm a bit old. And so you rang me a few times, and then
Yeah.
he rang me, and it was for something down at Darling Harbour. I can't remember the name, but you brought so much joy into my life. I had such a wonderful time.
But you were in
the
lots
camera.
of things. You were in,
Yes.
and you did Tropfest movies. You were in All Saints. You've done a lot of commercials.
Oh, yes, thanks
Did a
to
lot of
you.
commercials.
Yes.
You did very well, didn't you?
But my favourite one was Murder Call.
Murder. Oh, that's when you were a dead body.
Oh, it was-
You were raped and you were scarred and you
That's
were.
right. It took an hour.
The makeup.
It was beautiful.
They made you look absolutely frightful.
I rang all my friends and I rang my family to look, and not one person would look at it.
They would look.
And then when I was down at Balmain, it was down at Balmain
You were
behind
dead.
the church. I was dead, and they said, somebody call the police. And they said,
But these were just innocent bystanders who didn't know you were acting.
That's
And you,
right.
here she was lying on the footpath, looking as if she'd been raped and murdered. And somebody's calling the police, and you weren't going to open your eyes because you were a good actress, and the director had told you to keep still. You were dead.
and I refused to open my eyes. So they said, we'd better call the police.
This is
So
gorgeous.
somebody kicked me.
Just to make sure you were dead.
Yes. I had fun that time.
Oh,
That was
yes,
really great.
yes.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Joy,
no,
for
we did.
all those times. It was just so wonderful. And if I hadn't have gone to international training in communication, Toastmasters, and it's now called Power Talk, I wouldn't
But
have
darling,
been
we
able to
haven't
go.
mentioned about what happened to you this year. You've had the very big honour,
I
and
have.
you are now the Citizen of the Year
For Stratfield.
because you've done so much wonderful community work there.
Well,
That's great.
it was I was so overwhelmed.
But
I
you're
still
such a
am.
wonderful worker, and you've done so much
Stratfield.
for so many people.
Well, it was Chinese New Year and International Women's Day for last year, and for leukemia.
Yeah.
I sell these. These are for you, Joy. I sell these at Stratfield Shopping Centre, and all the money goes to research and to look after
For
the
leukemia.
patients. Yes,
Oh, isn't that
yes. I
beautiful?
had a friend that died. She had leukemia of the brain, and all the money. They do wonderful work. The leukemia people. And this is the certificate.
Ah,
I was so overwhelmed,
the
Joy.
Citizen of the Year. Look at that. Just
Yes.
hold that up, and we'll see if we can get.
Joy, I couldn't cook. You know how I love cooking, and I
Yes.
brought many things over to you.
You were so
before.
excited.
Yes, and I couldn't cook for a week or two, and I did get out of washing up too, so I was happy about
Keep it
that.
still for a sec. Yeah.
But Councillor Scott Farlow, the mayor, presented this to me, and I
Wonderful.
was just
Isn't
absolutely
it exciting?
thrilled on the
It's
day.
lovely to be recognised
But
as for all the work you've done, not thinking of getting rewarded for it.
No.
And even though you've made no money or anything, it's wonderful to know that people notice the things you do, and good on you, darling.
Thank you. I
And
didn't expect it,
congratulations.
Joy.
No,
And we
of
don't
course you
expect
didn't.
it
No.
for volunteer work.
That's right.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gladys.
There ought to be more people like you. There ought to be more people like you.
Last week we talked about how you could improve your quality of life. We introduced new terms like FIT. And the word FIT stood for frequency of exercise, intensity of exercise, time, the time you take, how long should you do it for, and the type of exercise. This week we've got one of our viewers, Richard, who watches the show every week. Hello,
Certainly
Richard.
do.
Welcome
Thank
to
you.
our show, Joy's World. And when we talked the other day in the pharmacy, you said you'd watch the segment, and you talked about those 4 terms. Frequency. How frequently do you do your exercise?
3 hours a week. Basically, my exercise would be walking, and I try to do about 50 to 60 minutes on a walk.
The time should be at least 60 minutes when you do your exercise. The frequency should be at least 3 to 5 times a week. The intensity. Now, what about the intensity? Do you huff and puff? Are you out of breath?
I don't huff and puff, and I'm not out of breath.
Do you sweat?
I sweat.
Very
but
good.
I
You're
always
burning
walk
away some of those
hard,
calories.
you know.
You work hard.
Yeah, very
And-
fast, and I like to go uphill, not downhill.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you're challenging your body, and that's
Absolutely.
important, burning away those calories.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing about Richard, when you talk about quality of life, everyone talks about weight loss,
Yeah.
controlling your weight. Everyone looks at that. We're talking about a kilo of fat.
Yeah.
We're going to make our viewers move away from here to here, Richard. Like I've been talking to you in the pharmacy about, turning Mr. Greedies into Mr. Happies. Because when you've got your weight under control, you not only just improve your quality of life, but it helps control diabetes, prevents you getting a lot of cardiovascular incidents.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say is it decreases heart disease.
Yeah.
Okay, now when we talked about fit, you also said something really interesting to me about the type of exercise. You said you like to do something which is walking.
That's correct.
Now, walking, the important thing is to do anything physical, you've got to do something you like. And there was another thing you told me about your walking. What do you do to maintain the high standard you have?
Well, I have a Walkman, and I play certain music.
You
with a-
mean the instrument of Walkman, not walk with a man, Richard? Let's clear it up here.
No. Too old for that, unfortunately.
Good on you.
But I walk with a Walkman, sure. A CD player, and I have up-tempo music. That
So you have the motivation to do what
absolutely,
you're doing.
it's not a boring thing to walk if you're stimulated with music.
And that's what I try and impress on the viewers, that what you've got to do, if you like the exercise you're doing, you're going to continue to do it. Now, the other thing we talked about, or we might have touched on last week, was something called BMI. The doctors talk about a body mass index. And the good thing about it, Richard, is we don't talk about fat here. We talk about what your weight, the relationship between your weight and your height. And that's a more realistic approach to having a good, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because big people who are tall fall into a range which is quite acceptable. We call it a healthy range.
Mm-hmm.
And people who may be, particularly slim, for example, will fall into a range which isn't a healthy range. And one must keep in mind, viewers, that when we talk about controlling your weight and healthy lifestyle, if you're pregnant, or if you're a breastfeeding mother, or if you're under 16, some of the things we talk about may not be relevant to you. So you've got to keep that in mind. But body mass index is very, very important. You can go to your local pharmacy, or you can do it yourself at home. Go, get onto some weighing scales. You've got to measure your weight in kilos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the weight on top and your height in centimeters squared underneath. And it'll give you a figure, a 2-digit figure. And you've got to try. The healthy range for BMI is from the figure 15, or better still, it should be from 20 to 25. So if you get a BMI or body mass index between 20 and 25, you're in the healthy range. But that doesn't mean, if you're below it, there's nothing you can do about it. There is something you can do about it. You can have the right foods. Again, we talked about nutrition, the relevance. I think with Ellen, our Dutch pharmacist, we talked about nutrition and the value of having the right foods. The other thing, if you're overweight, some people like to use the word obese. That means when your BMI is over 25, then you can address this by doing a couple of things besides lifestyle changes. You can watch your calories, that's the sugar, as well as watching the fat intake. It's 12 grams of fat, less than 12 grams of fat each meal, and less than 40 grams of fat each day. Try and keep those parameters in mind till our next show, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what one should eat and what one should avoid. Thanks very much. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for your time.
Noel. Thank you.